Hello and welcome back to the Touch on Sport podcast. As always, I am your host, Buster Tutcher. Today we're going to have a breakdown of the Week 4 slate of games from the 2023 NFL season. It's been a great weekend of action. There's loads to talk about from all the games. Let's get right into the episode. Okay, so opening up Week 4, we had the Detroit Lions going to the Green Bay Packers on Thursday Night Football. And it was a 34-20 win for the Lions over the Packers in a game where really they got ahead early. They got up 14-3 in the first quarter, and then they were just able to run the football, run the rock, pound the rock down the Packers' throats. David Montgomery, 32 carries, 121 yards, 3 touchdowns for the Lions. In the end, it was comfortable for them. They just ground out the game. They ground out the clock. Didn't really let the Packers have a chance to get back into it. It was a bad start from Green Bay. Jordan Love did not have his best game. Detroit, they put up points, they score easy, and once they get ahead of you, their pass rush can get after the quarterback. They can make it tough, make it difficult, and they're quite hard to pass on. So, game plan executed by Detroit for Green Bay. Need to start games better. They're struggling early in games, and it cost them against the Lions in a divisional game where they really needed to get something out of it. They had been playing all right, had been playing fine, but yeah, not the result they needed. And for the Lions, they just keep marching on. They're looking good this season. They've had a couple statement wins already. We knew going in they were going to put up points, and once they get ahead, they can really shut you down on defense. So they're playing well, playing good. Good result for the Lions. Our next game, it was the first international game of the season here in England, in London. We had the Falcons and the Jaguars, and Jacksonville came out on top, 23-7 over Atlanta in this one. And again, getting ahead early, dominating time and possession. You know, they were able to get something going off offensively. They were efficient. They didn't turn the ball over. They put the pressure on Desmond Ridder and the Atlanta Falcons passing attack, and Ridder did not have his best game. You know, a bit of a disappointing game, really. 2 interceptions. Yeah. Trevor Lawrence looked solid, did what he had to do. They were able to, get a bit of rushing attack going by the end of the game, and they just ground out a nice, solid win. Jacksonville now stays in England. They have a back-to-back games in London, so they're hosting the Bills next again at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. So it'll be interesting to see how they go in that one. But yeah, disappointing game from Atlanta, and I think they'll expect to have a bit of a bounce back next year. Get back to the running game, try to take a bit of the pressure off Desmond Ridder, who hasn't performed great so far. Right, let's move on to the early games of Sunday over in the United States, over in America, and we'll start with the Baltimore Ravens beating the Cleveland Browns 28-3. For this game, for the Browns, a late scratch injury for Deshaun Watson meant Dorian Thompson-Robinson came in, and it was a bit of a rough outing for him against, well, let's be honest, what is a well-drilled, well-stacked Baltimore defense. He threw the 3 interceptions. Baltimore did what they do. They ground it out. They played hard. They played tough. Cleveland's defense, it didn't have its best day, but they didn't get enough support from their offense. I mean, Cleveland only put up 166 total yards of offense. That is not enough, no matter how good your defense is. And let's be honest, they did a decent job on Baltimore. Baltimore didn't get crazy going or anything, but in the end, no Deshaun Watson. Tough game for Cleveland, and Baltimore were able to push through and get the result they needed to get the win. Be interesting to see later in the year when these two teams play again, if Watson is healthy, this Browns defense plays up to its standard when it's got a bit of support coming from the offense. Should be a much closer game next time around between these two sides. Next up, 2 teams coming off tough losses last week. 2 teams that were both winners going in. The Denver Broncos went to the Chicago Bears, and they were down. This game was looking tough for Denver. I mean, they were down bad. It was 28-7. Partway through the third quarter, and this Bears team just don't know how to win. I mean, Justin Fields was playing great. He had his first ever 300-yard passing game. He was playing well. They were moving the ball, putting up points. And then he turned into a bit of a pumpkin. He had the fumble, returned for a touchdown by Denver. There he kind of ran into someone and lost the ball. And then the defender picked it up and took it away. And then Denver just came back, clawed their way back, 17 unanswered points in the fourth quarter. And yeah, Chicago don't know how to win a game at the minute. That's the issue with this team. There's some talent, there's some ability, and they showed it. They can play well on a Denver team that's defensively not playing great, but Justin Fields was playing well until late in that game, and then Denver came back. And for Denver, normally this season so far, they've been good in the first half, but bad in the second half. Well, they flipped that on its head. They came back charging in the second half, came back into the game. First win as Broncos coach for Sean Payton, and I think it's not going to be the result they wanted. They would have wanted to go into this game and make a statement, but that's where they are as a team at the minute. Just to be able to scrape through 31-28, come back, win, but they can take something from this. They've got the win now. They can build off of that. Neither of these teams are playing good football at the minute, really. Realistically, defensively, they're both poor and they're not putting up what they need to on offense. So, Denver, take the win, can build off that. Good, finally get their first win. Chicago, there are some positives to take. They were playing well, just lost it in the fourth quarter, and that's what they need to change if they can maintain the play from the first half and most of the third quarter and keep that going for a whole game, then they should be able to hopefully get a win for them this season. But until they can do that, it's going to be hard for them to, make anything happen in the win column. Next up, we've got the Pittsburgh Steelers at the Houston Texans. And wow, the Texans are playing ball for DeMeco Ryans. CJ Stroud playing well again. A 30-6 win over the Steelers. I mean, defensively, Houston turned up in this game. They put it on Kenny Pickett. Interception on his first drive. Put him on the back foot from the word go. Pickett, of course, went out later in the game. He got sacked, injured his knee, replaced by Mitch Trubisky. Hopefully Pickett's all right. But offensively, Pittsburgh just struggling to get anything going. I mean, tough day sledding for the Steelers. For Houston, back-to-back wins now. Getting some momentum going. CJ Stroud, he's adapting to this NFL life and he's playing quite well. 300 passing yards on the day, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. Yeah, a good day's work for CJ Stroud and the Texans, and another big confidence-boosting win. So well played to them. We'll see how they can take this forward and keep going with it. I'm impressed. Next up, we've got a NFC East divisional matchup where the Washington Commanders went into Philadelphia and took the Eagles to overtime. Couldn't get the score on their first drive of overtime, which meant the Eagles could go down the field, kick the field goal. Jake Elliott, I think it was 54 yards to win the game. 54-yard field goal to win the game in overtime. Eagles still not playing their best ball, still undefeated. Ominous looking for the rest of the NFC, especially the NFC East, but also just the whole league in general. They will. I'm confident in this team, in this playing staff and coaching staff. I'm more confident in the playing staff than the coaching staff, but I'm confident in this team that will get themselves right and will get themselves playing their best football by the end of the year. And if they keep stacking these wins, 4-0, first in the NFC East, one of just 2 undefeated teams remaining, they keep playing like this, man, they're going to be some tough outcome later in the year. It was defensive issues, really. I mean, they got passed on. Yeah. And Sam Howell had 290 passing yards, and they just kept scoring. it was a high-scoring game. I mean, 34-31 at the end, it finished. Good to see both these teams playing each other tough, playing hard. I mean, it's a divisional game, so you expect that. But Philly, still not playing their best, come away with a win. Well played to them. Next up, another two teams going in undefeated. We had the Minnesota Vikings going into Carolina and getting their first win of the season, 21-13 over the Panthers. It wasn't a great game. I mean, Kirk Cousins is not playing like Kirk Cousins can. Yeah, two touchdowns, but 2 interceptions. Carolina dominated time and possession in this game. You know, they held the ball so much longer and had so much more time. They just could not score points. Bryce Young, I mean, he came back, he played okay, but they just couldn't punch it into the end zone. They had, Carolina obviously had the pick six first quarter, and then they had 2 field goals. Just couldn't get the ball into the end zone offensively, and that will cost you in the NFL. You know, that's where what we want to see is Bryce Young learn from this. You know, we know he hasn't got loads of talent around him. If he can learn from this, we moved the ball okay, but we need to punch it in. That'll be okay for the Panthers. It's a learning curve. This year one is going to be tough. We always knew that going in. For Minnesota, they needed the win. They got it. They can kick on their season from now, but against a struggling Carolina team, they shouldn't be making it look this tough. Kirk Cousins needs to get himself right. Hopefully for them now, they've got the first win. They can kick on from here, push on, have a good rest of the year. Moving on, we have got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers going into the New Orleans Saints and winning 26-9. Divisional game, NFC South, tough game. Both teams playing hit and miss so far through the season. And the Bucs come up on top. I mean, Baker Mayfield, 3 touchdowns on the day. I thought New Orleans were going to win this one because Derek Carr was healthy and was playing. But the shoulder affected him. He couldn't get it going. They couldn't get the passing game going how they wanted to. I mean, Carr had 127 yards passing on the day. That isn't going to cut it against a Tampa Bay team that they're going to stretch the field. They've got big, fast, strong receivers who can just stretch the field and take you on and challenge you. And if you're not going to punch the ball into the end zone all day, then you're not going to win against this Bucs team that has talent on offense and will score points. So it was a streaky game, very hot and cold for the Bucs, but they did what they had to do. They went in, they got the win. They're now first in the division, 3-1. It's been a solid start to the year for them. Hopefully they can build off this and move on to have a great year. For the Saints, hopefully Derek Carr, just that shoulder keeps getting better. Next week he can build on, play a better game. They can be more consistent, do what they want to do with the ball more. It's just about punching that ball into the end zone. That's it. Got to do that. You can't rely on 3 field goals. And yeah, we'll see how they go. Next game we're going to talk about is the Dolphins at the Bills. And Miami coming off the 50-70-20 win over Denver. Get a bit of their own treatment. 48-20, Buffalo beats Miami. This was a Josh Allen peak of his performance, peak of his powers day. I mean, 4 touchdowns thrown. He ran for a touchdown himself as well. Just a Buffalo going in there. We're playing offense. We're smashing you in the mouth. And you ain't going to do anything to stop us. And you know what? Hugely impressive win for Buffalo. They look like their week 1 loss where they looked awful against the Jets. They've blown those cobwebs away. They're on a 3-game winning streak. Miami, you know what? When your offense is built around splash plays and moving the ball fast, you're going to have an off day. Doesn't help that it's against your divisional rival, but when you hit a buzzsaw like Buffalo flying full speed, then it's going to be hard to live with them. And, they still put up some alright numbers, but Tua, interception thrown, just the one touchdown thrown by himself, and they just couldn't keep up. And you know what? They'll bounce back from this. They'll come back. They'll be all right. It's one game. They'll reset. They'll go again. It will be interesting to see how they bounce back next week. I think that will be huge for the rest of their season. If they can bounce back straight away and get right back on it, right back to scoring points, then they'll be fine. But yeah, just got hit by a Buffalo buzzsaw on Sunday and couldn't live with them. Okay, another game that went to overtime where we saw the LA Rams go into Indianapolis. Game finished 23-all, but the Rams got the ball and marched down the field. Matt Stafford threw that ball to that man again, Puka Nacua, for the touchdown in overtime. The rookie, just a crazy amount of receptions. He had 9 again on the day, 163 yards and a touchdown for Nacua, and LA come away with the win, 29-23. What can I say about this LA Rams team? We thought going in there's not a lot of talent. They're going to have a really difficult year, but they're playing tough. They're playing hard. Matt Stafford is moving the ball. He's being accurate. He's being precise. He's being efficient. Okay, he had an interception on the day, but you know, they're playing. We know what Sean McVay is going to do on offense. He's going to create opportunities, and Matt Stafford is a quarterback who can take advantage of that. So, you know, they got ahead early. Indy came back into it. Anthony Richardson coming off the concussion. He looked a bit rusty in the first quarter, but first half he came back into it though. He played all right. You know, he had a couple touchdowns late on and got their team back into it. Didn't get the ball in overtime. It's just the way the ball breaks sometimes, and that's football. But I think for Indy, being able to get back into the game, get themselves back to level, get back to a tied game and force overtime, that's huge for them, huge for Anthony Richardson's progression as a rookie quarterback, and I think they can take a lot from that. Shame they didn't get the chance in overtime to have the ball, but you know, you got to take your breaks in football sometimes, and they didn't get one today on Sunday, so but a lot they can take from that, and a lot of confidence they can have in Anthony Richardson going forward from this game. So a tough game and a well-played game, but they did what they had to do. Next up, we've got the Bengals, Cincinnati, going into Tennessee to play the Titans. And Tennessee came out of this game 27-3. That defensive front, they put pressure on Joe Burrow, and he could not deal with it. That offensive line for the Bengals could not hold up. And the Cincinnati offense that looked good last week got going, got Jamar Chase going. Not this week, and they fall to 1-3. Joe Burrow at calf ain't right, but he's got to be able to step up, play past this. But for the Bengals, he needs some help from that defense. They cannot be out here letting Tennessee put up 27 points on them. A Tennessee team that Ryan Tannehill has not been playing great. Okay, he had a lot of help from Derrick Henry. 122 yards on 22 carries and a touchdown. When you've got Derrick Henry playing like he can play, that makes it so much easier for your quarterback. That Cincy defense, though, they need to help out their offense. Their offense is not going right. And they need some help from their defense that just is not standing up at the minute. Be interesting to see how they go from here, but God, it's tough watching for Cincinnati at the minute, and you know they're gonna have to start bouncing back from here and getting some results going. But you know, I'm interested to see how they go the rest of the year, because I don't see Joe Burrow's ankle getting right anytime soon, and it's going to be tough going for them until it does. Well played to Tennessee, though. I mean, Mike Vrabel, as an underdog, he is great as an underdog as a coach, and another win for him straight up. And a pretty impressive one at that, 27-3. Well played to Tennessee. Okay, let's move on to the Sunday late kickoffs, and we will start with the Las Vegas Raiders at the LA Chargers. Chargers come away, second win of the season, 24-17. We knew going in that Jimmy G was not playing. I thought it was going to be Brian Hoyer. It was not. It was rookie Aiden O'Connell in at quarterback for the Raiders. So what did LA do? They brought the heat. And, did Khalil Mack bring the heat. 6 sacks from Mack on the day. Just pressuring O'Connell from the word go. I mean, he lost 2 fumbles. He had an interception. You could tell they just rocked him. And they just put the pressure on. And the Vegas Raiders could not deal with it. I mean, it wasn't a free-flowing offensive performance from the Chargers. You know, they've had much better days this season offensively, but they ran the ball. They got ahead 24-7 at halftime and then just tried to run the ball. I mean, the Raiders made some good adjustments, didn't give up any second half points, got themselves, you know, trying to come back into the game, but late on, Chargers defense held strong, got them the win, got them to 2-2, and back in the hunt in the AFC West and having a chance now to kick on for the rest of this season. For the Raiders, it was a tough start. They came back into it. You know, they made some good defensive adjustments at halftime and got themselves back into the game. But another loss, 1-3 now. It'll be interesting to see if Garoppolo comes back next week or if it's O'Connell again. I think he'll learn a lot from this game. It was tough for him. The pressure was brought. Mack with the 6 sacks, I mean, that's going to be tough for anyone getting sacked 6 times. But the Chargers can do that. They've got that talent up front. And, you know, when you're playing in these divisional games, you've got to stand up to the pressure. And unfortunately for the Raiders, they couldn't early on and put themselves in too big of a hole. Let's move on to the New England Patriots at Dallas Cowboys. And the Cowboys were back to their we're going to blow you out best. 38-3, the Cowboys ran over the Patriots. I mean, it wasn't a great day for New England. Mac Jones had a tough game. You know, he had 2 interceptions, then got benched for Bailey Zappi. Dallas had a pick 6. They just put the pressure on. And New England couldn't get anything going offensively. Dallas, on the other hand, got ahead early, got the running game going, and just managed the game through to a nice, comfortable 38-3 victory. This is what they can do against teams. When they get going, when they get rolling, they can put the pressure on. If they get a lead on you, they're going to pressure you with their defensive line. They're going to get after the quarterback. They're going to put the challenge on. And that's what they did to England. I mean, was by no means a vintage New England performance defensively. They got picked apart. The pressure got put on them, and they couldn't deal with it. So I thought New England were going to keep this game close, but Dallas just had too much firepower, and they ran over this game. Next up, in the late kickoffs and the last game of just 3 late kickoffs this week, we had the Arizona Cardinals going into San Francisco. And they played them tough. You know, this game was close going into the 4th quarter. It was 21-16. Arizona coming back into it. They put the pressure on. They scored before halftime. They made the Niners punt. Scored again. Went for 2. Didn't make it. 49ers come back onto the field and pull away to win 35-16. And San Francisco, it's all about the star power. Christian McCaffrey, 4 touchdowns on the day. Brock Purdy, 1 incomplete pass on the day. They didn't even have to target Deebo Samuel in the passing game. Brandon Ayuk came back, 6 catches on 6 targets for 148 yards, career high. Christian McCaffrey, should we say it again? 4 touchdowns on the day. The first 4 for the 49ers on the day. Huge game from McCaffrey. I mean, he had 106 rushing yards. He was about 70 receiving yards. When you've got when you've got this many star players, it doesn't matter if 1 or 2 of them have a little knock, little injury, little niggle here and there. Someone else will step up. And even if it wasn't a vintage day for this Niners defense, they did what they had to do late. They got a couple stops. They forced some punts. And they held Arizona, who were playing tough, playing hard, keeping themselves in it. They held them to 16 points and just got the stops when they needed to. Arizona, again, they're playing hard. They are playing tough. There is not a huge amount of talent on this team. But the players that are there, they are playing hard for their coach. They're playing hard for each other. They kept themselves in this game. Just did not have the talent to, keep touch with the 49ers. And there's no shame in that. There will be a lot of teams this season that just don't have the talent to keep up with 49ers late in games. I think it's a game that Arizona can take some confidence from. Again, that they played tough. They made it hard for the 49ers. But San Francisco just keeps marching on. A huge game next week for the Niners hosting Dallas. I'm really excited for it already. We'll go into that on Thursday. But wow, that game is shaping up to be huge. Right, let's move on to Sunday Night Football, where we had the Kansas City Chiefs going to New York to play the Jets, Jets. And this game was closer than I thought. I thought that Kansas City were going to blow out New York. I thought, no Aaron Rodgers. Offense has been struggling. Defense has been challenged recently. I thought this was going to be a Kansas City blowout, and it looked that way early on. It was 17-0 at the end of the first quarter, and Kansas City were rolling, but New York got this back. They made it close. In the end, Kansas City hold on for the 23-20 victory. But positives to take for New York. I mean, Zach Wilson started off a bit shaky, made a couple plays. They got some stuff going, and they forced the safety of Mahomes with the penalty. Well, it was of Mahomes. It was the face mask penalty in the Kansas City end zone. Got themselves on the board. New York then drive the ball. They get a field goal. They get the ball back. They go and they get a touchdown. They get some momentum going, and they're playing well. Get it back to 20-20. And then in the fourth quarter, Kansas City get the field goal. Zach Wilson fumbles the snap. They turn the ball over. And in the end, Kansas City have enough to get the win. Mahomes plays well in the fourth quarter, gets them through, makes the decision at the end as well. Could have gone in for a touchdown, but takes a knee. Seals the win. Does what top quarterbacks do. Wins the game. But for New York, they played better. They made some adjustments. They started slow. They came back into it. They made some adjustments. They made it tough for Kansas City. They got some offense going. It was a better game. They've got to now build on this, go into the next game, take some momentum, try to get back into the winning column now, not just playing well. But I think a lot to take from this for them. So well done to them. Kansas City, 3-1 now. They're getting rolling. They're not playing great. They're not playing their best ball. Mahomes had another 2 interceptions on the night. Did throw a third, but it got called back for a penalty on New York. But they'll come through. Their defense did enough, held them back early. They're 3-1. They're first in the AFC West. They'll be fine. But stuff to build on for them. Okay, we have just got one game left on week 4. That is tonight. That is the Seattle Seahawks going to the New York Giants for Monday Night Football. Be interesting to see how this game goes. I'm not sure if the Giants have got the players back from injury that they need. I'm not sure if Saquon is going or not. We'll see. But I think for this game, to be perfectly honest, Seattle are going to have too much firepower for that New York Giants defense. I think Seattle wins this game. But it should hopefully be a good game to watch tonight. Let me know what your thoughts on are and your predictions for that game are in the comments. Let me know as well what you think of your thoughts on week 4 were in general. I thought it was a great weekend of football. But yeah, let me know if it was what you expected from some teams, some surprises, and let me know your reactions as well. That is it for today's podcast. I hope you enjoyed. Please do leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel if you are new, and we will be back on Thursday to break down week 5 of the NFL. We are through a quarter of the season already. It is flying by. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed today's podcast, and I'll see you again on Thursday. Thank you very much for watching. Goodbye.